Thank you everybody for joining my channel. This is obviously the first video that I am doing, winging it with the whites. Pretty much what this entails is I plan to focus primarily on military PCSing, especially for those who want to go into moving into an RV. In reality, I've been doing my research. I haven't really seen anything as far as like military families where they are PCSing to a new duty station and they want to utilize the RV. For my family, we initially were doing full-time RVing. We started it when we first joined, and we were doing that in between moving into a house, and we had a travel trailer, and we moved up from there. We bought a fifth wheel, a 42-foot fifth wheel, and decided, hey, let's give this a shot, especially with the possibilities of being able to cut down on some of the cleaning time, because when you have a house, you fill up the square footage. When you have children, they know how to make a mess of all that additional square footage. With that being said, we decided, hey, let's move into the camper. We can limit the amount of square footage that they're able to take advantage of, and we just kind of, have more of us time, while also the kids can go out, learn from the people, especially in today's world where most of the children are on their phones or being educated by YouTubers, like myself now. But it was a great opportunity that we want to take advantage of it for our family. Now, right at this current moment, we got PCS'd to Hawaii, which completely put a huge damper on our plans. So we were full-time RVing up in South Dakota before this, and then next thing you know, they dropped us some orders, and we had to move to Hawaii, where we can't bring our RV. So now that we're about to leave here, we've been on the island now for 3.5 years, we're about to move back to our camper, which has been sitting in storage this whole time waiting for us to get back there. With that being said, I'm going to do a little series here as far as the pros and cons of really moving into an RV, especially with an Oconus, because this is a very unique situation that I think we may be the only people who be doing this type of stuff, and hopefully this is educational for anyone who wants to do it as well. With that, we're currently in Hawaii. We should be leaving here at the end of the summer. It really just depends on how things play out there, but I like to go over again the pros and cons. Ideally, pro number 1 through 5. We've got, once you get into the camper and you got your household belongings are all picked up, you're going to have all the stuff you already need. You don't have to worry about, once you move into a hotel, all your stuff is already packed up. You don't have anything, so you're living out of suitcases. But when you're in a camper, you've got all your clothes, you've got all of your belongings there, you got your kitchenware. You don't have to worry about or dealing with any of that stuff. So it kind of creates this less stressful environment, which PCSing is a very stressful time. Also, you save money on food, which is a huge advantage because you're able to cook. You're able to bring the food from your house. And that when you're PCSing, instead of having to throw everything out, you've got everything still with you. Just throw it in your cabinets and you're all good to go. Then, with that, versus, let's be honest, it costs a lot of money to be just buying fast food the whole time, and if you moved into a hotel that doesn't have a kitchenette, you are limited to what your capabilities are as far as cooking needs. And if you're in a hotel for 10 days, or a few days here, plus the travel, and then more days over at a hotel at your next duty station, you're in and out of boxes, and it's not, we'll call it healthy, but it's also not good for your bank account. With that, you also have no additional fees. Let's say if you move into a hotel, you've got to, maybe if you have pets, you got to get a hotel that's pet friendly. Then if you have a larger size family, you need additional rooms or you need additional beds. With that, again, if you need a kitchenette, you have to go and get a kitchenette now, which then takes away from your per diem. In a camper, you already have a camper for your family needs, so you're good to go. Again, it's just move your family over to it and you're fine. When you also are in a camper, huge big pro, when you're traveling from all these duty stations, you get to tour America. Now, for many of you, that seems kind of silly, but in the military, you're kind of limited to the area that you're at. Now, yeah, your military members going off and doing what they're doing at different locations for their job, but in transit, you're about to travel across the country. If you're traveling further than a few hundred miles to the next duty station, ideally, let's say you're going from the Northwest and you're going down to like Texas. There's a lot of bases in Texas. Let's use that as an example. You get to travel different routes that you think would be best for your family, especially for the stuff that you want to experience or things you want to enjoy. Then, the last bit is when you're in an RV and you decide to move that as full-time, you're not really camping. A lot of people think of that as like, oh no, we're going to be out there, doing the terrible stuff. Let's be honest, it's called glamping with a G. And the reason I call it that is because if you get the right camper for your family, it doesn't feel like you're camping at all. You're honestly just living in a really nice place. And you'll see that once we get to our camper and we're doing these video docu-series. I'll show you the inside of my camper and kind of the pros and cons and all the nice necessities that I have found that make us living in a camper, I guess, easier for us, or honestly just something that meets our needs. And again, our needs are different than your needs, so you just got to find that camper that's best for your fit. Now the cons, because just like every pro, there's got to be a con. So I want to throw the same amount of cons out there so that way it's not like I'm biased in which way I want to go. Because I do enjoy living in a house too. There's a lot of pros in it, but we're going to go with cons of moving into an RV. One of those cons is you're going to have additional loan or loan payment or insurance payments for having an RV. Number 2 is you're going to have a proper towing vehicle. Because if, let's say, you go into a fifth wheel, such as my own, I couldn't just use my old F-150 that I was driving. Now, it doesn't really matter what your brand of vehicle is. If your vehicle isn't rated for the vehicle or your trailer that you're having, it does not matter. For us, you have to go get a bigger vehicle now. So I have a 1-ton truck. How that works is I wanted to get a vehicle that would meet all my towing needs, but realistically still stay within my family needs. So having the proper tow vehicle may mean additional payments as well, because the bigger the vehicle, the more the price. Just how things work out that way. Plus, you get a bigger vehicle, you get a bigger camper. So you're really just increasing your payments ultimately in that whole aspect. But if you're a full-time RVer, you do have the benefit of living on a campground on a military installation. Now, I don't know how it is with all branches of service, but the Air Force is pretty good about having RV campgrounds at almost all their installations. So you're able to live at a lower rate than the BAH, than the amount you would get from your BH. So you're able to save some money there, and there's a lot of really great amenities that come with RV campgrounds on military installations. But again, the con, you have to get the proper vehicle. So if you don't already have that, maybe a problem. Plus, if you decide to go into like a Class A motorhome or a Class C, you don't need to have the tow vehicle, but you might have to now have a tow behind. So if you've got a Class C and you've got a truck that you normally drive, your Class C, for the most part, is not going to tow your big old truck behind there now. You may need a Class A motorhome. So you got to figure out that balance between what is best for your family. And down the road, I'll do a video as far as Class A, Class C, travel trailers, pop-ups, and fifth wheels, and kind of go over the differences as what works and pros and cons there. But again, you have to figure out what it is that works for your family, and then finding the proper layout that, again, is good for your needs. With that now, number 3 of the cons is finding a RV space depending on the season. So let's say it's peak summer season, and you just found out you had orders come May. Well, I can already guarantee most of the RV fancy locations that you want to go to might already be booked up. And that's just the nature of RVers. During the summer, they go traveling across America. So you're going to have to reach out to the RV campgrounds, whether it's en route or at the destination you want to go to. How that may entail is that you may end up not being able to stay at an RV campground for the entire time that you want to be there. You have to work with that RV camp or the RV campground or the camp host or whoever runs that installation, and maybe they'll be able to keep you there for the entire time. You might have to move a few times, but that's just really honestly what happens when you're an RVer. You might have to work with them, and how that may pan out is it may be in your favor, it may not, but they do like to try to cater to active duty, because if you're on orders, the mission comes first. So if we have to boot a veteran or boot a retiree or move stuff around, hopefully you're working in conjunction with them and you gave them enough time. You can't expect them to just kick anyone out, because in reality, the MWR, these people are also entitled to the same things you are. Doesn't matter that you're active duty, you can't think that you have another chip on your shoulder, that you are entitled to this outside of their commitment that they did to their country too. You're all equal in that regards. Just make sure you've done the right amount of planning on your part, so that way you're not sitting there expecting to be given something and now you don't have a spot. So you're going to work for, make sure they have like overflows and things of that nature. So that's a big con. You're really susceptible to what is going on in the environment, what's going on with the seasons and that location and tourism. Hopefully it all pans out for you. But if it all works out, it is great. But we're going to stick with cons. Now with that, we have also, number 4, additional fuel costs when you're towing. Because yes, you get per diem when you're traveling. But when you're towing, you lose a ton of miles per gallon. Whether it's diesel or gas, it doesn't really matter. You're going to end up probably more in the negative than you are in getting reciprocated on the back end with per diem. It's not the worst thing. I mean, you are moving into, you're not paying for hotels in between that trip, especially if you're driving. So you'll save that money too. You probably will balance out. It really just depends. And when we do this move as well, I'll do a balance sheet. I'll figure things out there as far as like checking in every time we stop, and then if we stop, see what the nearest hotel average cost is. I'll do a check there, but I'll figure that out once I get back to the mainland. And the 5th one is your RV components. And what I mean by that is, depending on the luxury levels of your RV, maybe you have some really cool stuff. Maybe you have hydraulic or mechanical slide outs. Maybe you have no slide outs. But let's say you do have a lot of slide outs and you're driving across the country and you pull up at one of the truck stops or pull off areas on the interstate or an RV truck or a truck station. Great. You're over there. You're going to go to sleep in your camper. Let's use our example here with me. We've got a 5th wheel. In my exact situation, if we were to pull into a truck stop, get out, my family of 5, 2 older kids and then my toddler, if we were to get out, the only access we have in our 5th wheel, with everything closed on all of our 5 slide outs, we can only get into the main bedroom. Our bedroom, me and my wife. Because the slide outs compress in, and there is no way to get to the back room, which is our children's room. So that means somehow all 5 of us have to sleep in the queen size bed. Is it queen? I can't remember if it's queen or king, but it doesn't really matter because a family of 5 in that bed, it's not going to be comfy for everybody. Plus the dog, because we have a dog, not a small one. And again, that's some of the things you might have to deal with. Now, if you're lucky, or not lucky, but in our situation, we have a hydraulic system. So what that happens is when we hit our one button, because hydraulic is one, you just do it and it all does this thing. It goes through the furthest away, and it will just start opening that slide out. When that slide out's open, it'll move on the next slide out, and it'll just move things over due to distance, kind of like when you're bleeding your brakes. But same thing, furthest, and goes all the way out, and the next open. But that doesn't work because maybe you just wanted to move the 2 middle slide outs instead of the back ones first. You don't get to pick and choose. Now, I don't know why hydraulic is supposed to be the better of the 2 options, but that's a big con in my eyes. So with that, I look at it is if you have the individual slide outs on your control unit there, and you can just do that, you might be able to have a little bit more ease because you're not opening your slide outs. You should not realistically be opening your slide outs in an RV truck stop. Those parking spaces are only your standard like 10 feet wide. So if you're just trying to weasel your way in the back, great. But for those needs, everyone just piles in. You'll sleep there. I mean, you got a floor, you got stuff. Bring a sleeping bag, pack that in there too, and you're good to go. But yes, that is an issue that I've come across a few times, is where the whole family is just going to pile into the front. No big deal. So those are currently my pros and cons when it comes to living in an RV in the PCS travel. That's not actually like us living at the RV campground or at the base that we're staying at. This is really just that PCS move. Because in reality is that portion is really a stressful time. And we can go over in the next video as far as actually living at an RV campground versus living in a house. I love those comparison videos because it's just like, well, I've always wanted to do that, but who knows how that plays out. Other than that, thank you, and thanks for watching Winging It with the Whites.